Hello everyone. Today we are doing lesson 60, which is a review of the first section of the workbook. And you got 5 items in with lesson 60 today, and we also have text from the chapter section, chapter 6, the lessons of love, section 5, the lessons of the Holy Spirit, subsection B, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. We ready?
Ready.
Excellent. Did you want to start or me?
Yeah, I can start. So this is reviewing of lessons 46 through 50. These ideas for today's review. God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he is never condemned. The blameless cannot blame, and those who have accepted their innocence see nothing to forgive. Yet forgiveness is the means by which I will recognize my innocence. It is the reflection of God's love on earth. It will bring me near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down to me and raise me up to him.
2. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me. And I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me.
3. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean towards me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me?
4. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There is not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There is not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I am walking steadily on toward truth. There is nowhere else I can go. Because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son.
5. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I am sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son.
All right, that was lesson 60. So these are the ideas for today's review. God is the love in which I forgive. God is the strength in which I trust. There is nothing to fear. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And I am sustained by the love of God. All right, moving on to the chapter text. Chapter 6, the lessons of love. Section 5, the lessons of the Holy Spirit. And subsection B, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. 1. All who believe in separation have a basic fear of retaliation and abandonment. They believe in attack and rejection, so that is what they perceive and teach and learn. These insane ideas are clearly the result of disassociation and projection. What you teach, you are, but it is quite apparent that you can teach wrongly and can therefore teach yourself wrongly. Many thought I was attacking them, even though it was apparent I was not. An insane learner learns strange lessons. What you must recognize is that when you do not share a thought system, you are weakening it. Those who believe in it, therefore, perceive this as an attack on them. This is because everyone identifies himself with his thought system, and every thought system centers on what you believe you are. If the center of the thought system is true, only truth extends from it. But if a lie is at its center, only deception proceeds from it. Interjecting. What this is talking about, folks, is that no matter where you are, your brother may not be there with you in that moment. And they may not be perceiving things as you are perceiving them. So when you go to interact with your brother and they've made some wild statement that you are perceiving to be, say, a judgment of something, and you're going to try and explain to them that, you know, what you're hearing is a judgment, they can't hear that in that moment. The only thing they can hear from you is that you're telling them they're doing something wrong, that they are bad, they are wrong, and that essentially you are attacking them. That's what that paragraph is talking about, that when you're interacting with your brothers, recognize that there are going to be moments where they're not going to understand that you are simply sharing a truth with them because they cannot see it themselves. They are not at the same level, frequency, what's another word? Wavelength as you are in that moment. They are not thinking and perceiving in the same way as you are. So take that into consideration when you are interacting with them. All right, let's move on.
Second paragraph here. All good teachers realize that only fundamental change will last, but they do not begin at that level. Strengthening motivation for change is their first and foremost goal. It is also their last and final one. Increasing motivation for change in the learner is all that a teacher need do to guarantee change. Change in motivation is a change of mind, and this will inevitably produce fundamental change because the mind is fundamental. Want to take the next one?
Yeah. You know, as you were reading this, something that I was understanding is that when we are sharing these lessons, many of you that are watching these videos are seeing Alex and I sharing with you, not just here in these videos, but on Facebook as well, our personal experiences the things that we have had personal experience in that have happened to us in our lives. And when we share from that understanding of our own experience, we are sharing from a level of understanding where a fundamental change has occurred within us. When we understand what was being shown to us in those lessons, as we turn and share those lessons with you, bear in mind that for us, those were fundamental stepping points that we are then sharing with you. As the light was shined for us, we are now trying to shine that light for you.
Okay. Third paragraph?
Yep. All right, number 3. The first step in the reversal or undoing process is the undoing of the getting concept. Accordingly, the Holy Spirit's first lesson was to have, give all, to all. I said that this is apt to increase conflict temporarily, and we can clarify this still further now. At this point, the quality of having and being is not yet perceived. Until it is, having appears to be the opposite of giving. Therefore, the first lesson seems to contain a contradiction, since it is being learned by a conflicted mind. This means conflicting motivation, and so the lesson cannot be learned consistently as yet. Further, the mind of the learner projects its own conflict and thus does not perceive consistency in the minds of others, making him suspicious of their motivation. This is the real reason why, in many respects, the first lesson is the hardest to learn. Still strongly aware of the ego in yourself and responding primarily to the ego in others, you are being taught to react to both as if what you do believe is not true. Interjecting. So, what they're talking about here, folks, it's going back to letting go of everything you've been taught to believe and to think of as being true. All the things that you have been taught via your family, your friends, your peers, society, all of these things about giving to get. You go and you want to give to somebody just so you can get something from them. It is letting go of that idea, that belief. It's learning that when you give and give freely, it's not talking necessarily about material items, although you can do so with those as well. But it's talking more about giving freely of the understanding and the knowing that you are coming into as you do these lessons, as you go through your experiences, your life experiences, and see the lessons that are wrapped up within them. And as you go through looking at those things and learn those lessons, give them freely to your brothers. Share freely of what you have experienced. And you will be given more from it. You will get 10 times more from it. Because as you give, you receive. As you are healing yourself and you help others to heal, you are gaining so much in return. So keep that in mind. As you do these lessons, they're to be shared. The things that you've experienced and the lessons you're learning from them, share them. Share from the heart. what you've been through. Drop 2 feet from the head to the heart. Alex?
Paragraph 4. Upside down as always, the ego perceives the first lesson as insane. In fact, this is its only alternative, since the other possibility, which would be much less acceptable to it, would obviously be that it is insane. The ego's judgment here, as always, is predetermined by what it is. The fundamental change will still occur with the change of mind in the thinker. Meanwhile, the increasing clarity of the Holy Spirit's voice makes it impossible for the learner not to listen. For a time, then, he is receiving conflicting messages and accepting both.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. The ego does perceive these lessons as being completely and totally insane. And it creates massive conflict to where you're feeling like you're going crazy, going, wait a minute, but I thought this is what I was supposed to do. And it's like, no, that's what you were taught to do, but that's not necessarily what you're supposed to be doing. And, you know, one of the things here, the ego's judgments here, as always, is predetermined by what it is. The fundamental change will still occur with the change of mind in the thinker. So as you let go those things you were choosing to believe in to be true, for what Holy Spirit is showing you is the truth, you will find that as you change your mind, everything you start to perceive outside of you starts to change as well. But for a time, it feels like everything is just in conflict. You know, we weren't kidding when we said this stuff can be painful. And it's harsh, it's in your face, and it's worth it. For me, it has been absolutely worth it. I have gotten so much out of it that I'm an entirely different person than what I was. Are we ready to continue?
Yeah, I think it's your turn on paragraph 5.
5. The way out of conflict between two opposing thought systems is clearly to choose one and relinquish the other. If you identify with your thought system and you cannot escape this, and if you accept two thought systems which are in complete disagreement, peace of mind is impossible. If you teach both, which you will surely do as long as you accept both, you are teaching conflict and learning it. Yet you do want peace, or you would not have called upon the voice for peace to help you. Its lesson is not insane, the conflict is. So, in everything, folks, you have a choice. You have a choice in what it is you want to think, what it is you want to believe, what it is you want to do. And you got the right-minded thinking of Holy Spirit, then you got the wrong-minded thinking of the ego mind, what we've been taught, which is judgments, opinions, things of that nature, to take those in and believe them as being things that define us and define this world around us. And it's letting go of that egoic thought system, of those judgments and opinions that you are holding forth and believing to be true about you and the world around you. When you do that and start choosing only Holy Spirit, that's when the peace will come. But until then, welcome to hell on earth. All right, Alex, go ahead.
Paragraph 6. There can be no conflict between sanity and insanity. There is only one is true, and therefore only one is real. The ego tries to persuade you that it is up to you to decide which voice is true, but the Holy Spirit teaches you that truth was created by God, and your decision cannot change it. As you begin to realize the quiet power of the Holy Spirit's voice and its perfect consistency, it must dawn on your mind that you are trying to undo a decision that was irrevocably made for you. That is why I suggested before that you remind yourself to allow the Holy Spirit to decide for God for you.
Exactly. You got to let go and let God. Let go and say, here it is, Holy Spirit. Take it from me. I'm tired of this bullshit. Take it. Show me what it is that I'm misperceiving here. What is it that I'm missing? And you got to ask, folks. I cannot strain this enough for you. You got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't receive. You have to ask. They can do nothing unless you ask for it. All right. 7. You are not asked to make insane decisions, although you can think you are. It must, however, be insane to believe that it is up to you to decide what God's creations are. The Holy Spirit perceives the conflict exactly as it is. Therefore, his second lesson is to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. Go ahead.
8. This is still a preliminary step, since having and being are still not equated. It is, however, more advanced than the first step, which is really only the beginning of the thought reversal. The second step is a positive affirmation of what you want. This, then, is a step in the direction out of conflict, since it means that alternatives have been considered and one has been chosen as more desirable. Nevertheless, the term, quote, more desirable still implies that the desirable has degrees. Therefore, although this step is essential for the ultimate decision, it is clearly not the final one. Lack of order of difficulty in miracles has not yet been accepted because nothing is difficult that is wholly desired. To desire wholly is to create, and creating cannot be difficult if God Himself created you as a creator.
Yeah, so what it's talking about there, folks, the whole more desirable, less desirable, and about it being degrees. Recognize that to state more or less, good, bad, right, wrong, any of those things are judgments. Judgments held. It is not allowing and accepting things as they are. It is judging them to be more or less than in that moment. This is why, this is not the last lesson, of course, because there's still degrees that you're trying to learn through.
Or the last step.
Or the last step. Thank you. All right. 9. And this is the last paragraph of this section. The second step, then, is still perceptual, although it is a giant step toward the unified perception that reflects God's knowing. As you take this step and hold this direction, you will be pushing toward the center of your thought system, where the fundamental change will occur. At the second step, progress is intermittent, but the second step is easier than the first because it follows. Realizing that it must follow is a demonstration of a growing awareness that the Holy Spirit will lead you on. All right. That was Chapter 6, The Lessons of Love, Section 5. the lessons of the Holy Spirit, and subsection B, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. Along with lesson 60 in the workbook, which was a review of lessons 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50, pertaining to God is the love in which I forgive, God is the strength in which I trust, there is nothing to fear, God's voice speaks to me all through the day, and I am sustained by the love of God. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sabrina Reyenga.
And I'm Alex Reyenga.
Blessings on your journey, my brothers. Hugs, love, light, and blessings to all of you. You are loved. We love you. We look forward to tomorrow's lesson of 61. I am the light of the world. Hugs and love.